Hey, welcome back everybody at Clearwater Jazz Holidays, Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. Jeremy Carter, what's up, man?
What's up, brother?
Great to have you with us, Jeremy, on your topic today, advanced tenor sax. For those of you that have been following along with these master sessions, Jeremy's been with us for the ride. Go to our studio resource on the Clearwater Jazz website, education and outreach page, and you could check out all these past videos. Jeremy's done some really cool ones. This is a continuation of his tenor sax series. He's got a tenor sax basics course up there, an intermediate sax basics, and today we're going to do advanced tenor saxophone. People participating today are muted, but if you have questions, use the chat feature. We'll get those to Jeremy. And we just thank our sponsors and supporters for keeping this going. We have a real treasure growing of resources on the website now at clearwaterjazz.com in the studio. That's presented by Blue Water Wealth Management at Steward Partners. And then if you like to listen to these sessions, you can do that too on our Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions podcast. And we also have some other kind of cool features up on the podcast now. This whole historical feature called Stop Time with Frank Williams, which talks about the story of jazz and Frank's one-of-a-kind style, starting with the Civil War era and going all the way through modern day. And speaking of history of jazz, Jeremy has been a longtime participant in Clearwater Jazz Education and Outreach, including our History of Jazz Outreach program in the schools and our My Journey with Jazz program in neighborhood family centers. And he just happens to be one of the most sought-after saxophonists around. So we are happy to have him with us. He has traveled all over the place. He performs regularly. He has had several sold-out appearances to his own credit, and he is just a pleasure to have in our extended family. So, Jeremy, with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend. The stage is all yours.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Hello to everybody out there in virtual land. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, thanks to the Clearwater Jazz Holiday for putting all this stuff together. It really is an invaluable resource. A lot of people are going through stuff. You're stuck at home. You're dealing with COVID and the pandemic and everything. So what better time than to work on your stuff? You know, you have the opportunity and you have the free time. So tremendous kudos out to the guys at Clearwater Jazz Holiday for helping students stay on track, to help professionals get and stay on track, and further along their musical endeavors. So big thanks to those guys, Lee Maidberg, Frank Williams, all our partners, all the other musicians that are participating. Today we have kind of the third part in our saxophone series. This is going to be advanced tenor sax, where we'll explore some more in-depth concepts as it relates to playing the tenor saxophone, but we're also going to dig into some other stuff that other musicians might find useful as well. Different concepts that I focus on, and different strategies that I picked up from other musicians along the way that I respect. Aside from work ethic, like I said, some of the theories and strategies, I'm gonna dig into a 5-part kind of a fundamental basis for everything that I do. Before we get into some of the more advanced stuff, maybe I should just start there, and then I'll dig into it. It's a great place to start. I don't know if you guys can see this, but yeah, just a little side note. I just picked up this copper neck from my buddy Arnold Wang in China. This is solid copper, hand hammered, and it's got a really, really unique sound. It really opens up. I got an old vintage Selmer Mark VI from 1959 that this is still in impeccable condition. I don't know if my buddy Don Nolt is out there, but I picked it up from a good friend of mine, Don, down in Sarasota. So thanks, Don. But yeah, this neck really just added. It feels like a brand new horn. It's a whole new dimension in tenor sax playing. I'll talk about this a little bit more as I'm outlining, kind of my 5-part. I don't even know what you want to call it, a strategy or a technical basis from which to work in all settings, right? Whether you're a sax player or not. So, like I said, I'll outline that, my kind of philosophy, and then I'll go into each individual one and maybe dig into some playing and kind of explain and demonstrate how all this stuff works, okay? So the first bullet point in this musical philosophy or area of emphasis, I guess you could say, is rhythm. It's very common. It's music or rhythm is something that is common among people, whether you're a musician or not. Somebody's tapping their toe to the beat or they're dancing, I always like to use the food analogy, but you can enjoy food without being a chef. You can enjoy the rhythm of the music without being a musician, right? Being grounded in something that is fundamentally, that's fundamentally musically valid, right? Which could be anything. That's a big territory. Like you could use Oscar Peterson for an example, or you could use Charlie Parker for an example, two of my heroes, in terms of their rhythmic approach. Or you could look at somebody more like Sonny. Like Sonny could play, Sonny Rollins, I mean to say. He's somebody who's really who's capable of playing some of the most technical stuff, the most logical, harmonic, and melodic stuff. But by nature, I think when you hear some of his best stuff, it's really, really loosey-goosey. You have to use some spidey powers to notate some of this stuff because it's just like so unconventional. But it's so beautiful. It's perfect in its uniqueness. The first concept is rhythm. It's so important. It's not just the drummer's responsibility to keep track of the rhythm. Everybody on stage has that responsibility of being rhythmically aware or having some sense. You have to mark out or carve out your territory rhythmically. When you're playing, I don't care what it is, whether it's a blues, let me get the volume up here. When you start the blues right there, everybody has to lock in and buy into that and interpret that more or less the same way. So I think that, and like I said, this is my philosophy, whether I'm standing in the wings or I'm on stage and, say we're playing a traditional jazz hit and I play the head. The head will be the melody of the song for you non-jazz cats. And say the piano player takes the first solo or the bass player takes the first solo or the drummer takes one right out top. If I'm waiting in the wings and I'm coming up to take the next solo, this philosophy is kind of what I have in mind, along with applying these things. I know I haven't gone into all of them, but I'm just like giving you some insight into at least my state of mind when I'm on stage and trying to be, a part of the ensemble. It's a really unique position as a sax player, right? because or as a horn player, because you're not always playing. The drummer is most of the time always playing. The bass player is walking out the bass line, unless there is a part in the music where it's written where they fall out. But as a horn player, you have these moments where you're in and you're out, and so you have this task of making it seem like you're always there. So when you jump in, it's kind of like playing double dutch. The girls, you remember when they're out there with the 2 jump ropes? You gotta come in at the right time, or the whole thing is just gonna fall apart, right? And so that's all part of your rhythm. So I stress this point extremely. I want to stress this point because it's really hip. Like if you focus and really start to dissect and analyze some of your favorite players, at least for me, it's their rhythmic concept that is most striking to me. When I'm sitting there tripping about a Michael Brecker solo or Charlie or I'm going to say Chris Potter solo, he's just a nut. Like some of his figures and little harmonic cells that he uses and just turns them around and metric modulates. He has a really, really strong rhythmic sense. His time feel, even if he's playing just straight eighth notes, there's a way to interpret the eighth note. So if you're playing eighth note, like, so say this is the tempo, right? 1, 2, 1, right? Da 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 da, right? You don't want to play them, or you can play them straight across the bar, but that's boring. That's going to get real boring if you are outlining your lines straight like that, unless it's done deliberately, for effect. If that's just your mode or your way of interpreting eighth notes, that's not really a good swing feel. You kind of want to listen to some Count Basie. You want to listen to some Duke Ellington to really get that, the staccato. You want to get that elongated, kind of heavy, light. You want it to be floaty, kind of like the wagon with the hitch wheel on it. I've been watching too much Teddy Atlas. I'm like describing things like, so if you guys that don't know who Teddy Atlas is, the old boxing trainer, yeah, it's just a really colorful way of describing stuff. But yeah, you want to have a good harmonic feel. A good rhythmic feel, I meant to say. You want to interpret the notes, unevenly. That's what's going to give you that really good swing feel, right? So rhythm. The first concept, I know I stress it, but it's so important. It's going to make a huge difference in how you come across. Now, the next bullet point on my 5-point philosophy is melody. And I know there might be somebody out there saying that, hey, I thought this was the advanced session. It is. You go back to basics. You implement the most basic principles, and I'm telling you, you'll start. Like I just watched this thing recently. Branford Marcellus was doing a clinic somewhere. It might have been at the Inside Outside Saxophone Retreat or somewhere, and he's talking about his experience in listening. He said that he was like, he's up in New York, he's doing all this stuff. Of course, Branford was the music director for the Tonight Show and played with Sting and all these other guys. Just a phenomenal career. But at the time, he's up in New York, and, Wynton was getting it, he was really into whatever he was into, and he got him into, kind of some Louis Armstrong and some Lester Young and Sidney Bechet and some of the old guys. Now, he had heard and done all this study before, but at this particular time, this is what he was heavy into. And he was saying that when he came back to New York and was hanging out with the fellas, they're just jamming and stuff, he's playing all this outside stuff. He was talking about how listening to some of the older cats actually encouraged a more progressive way of playing. And at the time, it sounded kind of, weird, but I've applied the practice. I just started listening to all this, Illinois Jack Head and Lester Young and Sidney Bechet and all this stuff. And of course, Louis Armstrong. And the weird thing is, when you're playing along with these old records, if you implement a harmonic structure that wasn't really all that hip to be using back then, you feel like a genius, because they weren't doing it right. So it's kind of interesting how you would think that the more complex you get, you have to be up there with a lab coat on and some beakers and some Bunsen burners and stuff. And you're in the lab, right? It's complicated. No, honestly, the more you advance and the more complex the music gets, the interpretation, like all the things that you have to interpret as you're going through a musical experience, one of your best resources is your ability to reduce things to its most common form. So as you're getting into the advanced tenor sax course, it's really going to have a focus on some more fundamental principles that'll help you in any situation, whether you're going to try to compose a piece, whether you're soloing, whether you're playing in an ensemble, like a big band setting, and you have to blend with other musicians. Especially if you're the lead alto, and you're playing in the group, but the same can be said for anybody in the group. So rhythm is the first principle that you want to try to focus on and emphasize, right? The next being melody. The second point is melody. You want to make a melodic statement, even if that statement is one note. You can make a melodic statement with one note. It's crucially important. Like, you have all these notes and all these structures, just like in language, you have all these words, but the words individually do not make sentences. They don't make paragraphs. They don't make books. They don't make chapters, right? The same with music. All these ideas and concepts in music don't really make as much sense. They don't become a part of the language unless they are stated melodically. Those are the sentences. Those are the word forms. Those are the musical forms that make sense of all the stuff that we study, right? So melody is crucially important too. You want to be making a melodic statement whenever you're playing. You can functionally, okay. So like I can think of like an idea. You take one idea and then you kind of mutate it, and you take, another part of it and you take it in another direction. So you make melodic statements, the same way that you make statements verbally, the melody is crucially important. Okay, so that's the second bullet point. The third bullet point that I'd like to focus on, and I know this is a virtual session. I'll just take a second before I drop the third one. If there's anybody out there that has any questions, I know we're not doing like the interactive thing here, but certainly drop a line if you have any questions about any concept or anything that I mentioned here, or if you want to try to study privately and you have some specific things that you want to try to sort out, definitely drop a link or a line there, and we'll do our best to try to respond to that, to answer any questions, and then hopefully we can study, privately and focus on some things individually that you may be having some challenges with, or you just want to further along. Okay, so our next bullet point is harmony. All right, having a good harmonic sense is crucially important, especially as a sax player. Our responsibility and our role in most ensembles, you wouldn't think that harmonic knowledge would be, or I don't know. It sounds like some people don't think the harmonic knowledge is important, but it really is, to know how the things that you're doing fit into the structure of the tune, the forms, the sections, little phrases within it, like how you state these melodies, are all very important. Like if you're playing, any tune, any song, you have to have some sense of the harmonic knowledge, and not necessarily. Not only the value, like if somebody drops an F, right? Let me cut this up a little bit. You drop an F, right? Right? That's just one, that's first inversion. That's just one voicing, right? There's a million voicings for that chord, right? Or you gotta, or like a, you know what I mean? So having a good harmonic sense, like hearing those things, like that last chord, right? When you hear that, the cats that have done their harmonic study right there, they know what that is. They know what that, even if you haven't, you can hear that. That's that 4-to-1 thing. It's that sus thing happening, right? And so the more you dig into your harmonic stuff, you can hear these voices, like first inversion, right, second inversion, and then 7/9, right? And then like kind of a A minor over F, right? F minor, right? Different voicing, right? So harmonic study is really important because there's so many chords, there's so many relative chords. You'll see a chord all the time. I mean, I don't know, like there's different ways like to represent different chordal values, right? Depending on how you want it to sound. Like for instance, like the C major scale, right? You have all those modes within the scale, right? So you can have a harmonic value, that's a D minor, right? But all those notes are in the C scale, but that's not what you would play. You can't just go and play the C scale and expect it to sound right. You have to have the harmonic knowledge of knowing, even if you're playing the same notes, if you're not playing them the right way, then it's not hip. It's just not hip. So having a good sense of harmony is a really good idea when you're studying. It just makes your stuff more colorful, you know what I mean? And it's a constant journey, it's a never-ending journey, I should say. Everybody is kind of looking for some greater insight into what their heroes were doing. Like the more you start to, there's still, I bought my first copy of the Omni book, I think in 93, 94, I'm still checking that thing out. I'm still finding new stuff, different ways the bird was, just and it's crazy. It was outlining all these chord changes. He's playing this stuff at blistering speeds, but then you go back and look at it, it's so perfect and it's so logical. It's crazy, right? So and all the harmonic mutations that he was doing at lightning speed. You know, some stuff he had worked out. He had his licks and he had his philosophy and different patterns and stuff he liked to use, but just to have all these things at his disposal was pretty phenomenal. So we've covered rhythm. We talked about melody. We talked about harmonic structures, right? You got to take a what, G flat 7. Put a C on the bottom. Or you put the G flat on the bottom. Right? So we talked about rhythm, we talked about melody, we talked about different ways to interpret harmonic structures. And we'll dig into each one of these. I'll do some examples of each one, but I just want to cover these and then kind of go from there. The next bullet point, we did rhythm, we did melody, we did harmony. The next key area that I find is equally as important as the rest is dynamics. That's the next thing, right? What are dynamics? It's the little markings you see on the page. Piano, forte, pianissimo, double forte, mezzo forte, right? And there's different sides to that. As a composer, you're trying to give your music, you're trying to breathe life into it. You're trying to make it feel alive. Same way that your heart races when you're watching a movie and there's a moment of suspense. Create these same type of effects in music. So as a composer, that's a way of breathing life into the music. As a musician, it's a way of giving life to the music, right? You're interpreting it, right? And so your ability, your commitment and sacrifice of actually learning the piece, trying to figure out what the intentions of the composer were, looking at the piece in its entirety. It may not be all that, but it may not be like this 4, 5, 10 pager, right? You may have one piece, one page, right? That won't be all that hard to figure out in terms of like how the dynamic markings are structured, along where they are in the piece. What is their intended purpose? What are they trying to accomplish by putting this dynamic marking there? Okay. So dynamics are really, really important. It's not just loud and soft. And one thing I forgot to mention, all these principles, once you get them, once they're stated, once they're part of your consciousness, they all kind of become one and they're intertwined, right? So you're talking about dynamics. So dynamics could be also a rhythmic concept that you're focusing on simultaneously. How you're interpreting the rhythm is part of your dynamic interpretation. When you play one single note, it's the attack, it's the decay, it's the spill, it's the bend, it's enclosure. You can use harmony as a dynamic marking. For example, I don't know, I just thought of like, okay, so if you're thinking about dynamics, the notes, attack and decay, the length of it, You know, the volume of it, the color of it. These are all dynamic markings, right? Put a little vibrato on it. That's a different thing. You got a attack like a short. You got a long. Just a straight note. You add a little vibrato. Right? So there's different ways to play one single note, right? I know I played some other notes in there, but the focus was that one note. There's a bunch of different ways to interpret that note. So I'm there, and I'm literally thinking of like different ways to color this note to create a variation in the vibrato. You start it off at one speed, and then you gradually slow it down, like you have a retardando within your vibrato. You know what I mean? Like that is the texture. Those are the little nuances. Those are the little things that are going to give you a really full and well-rounded and seasoned tone as a sax player. These are things that are really going to take you to the next level. You're just not picking up the horn and jamming. That's fun too. That's great. But if you want to add a little texture and some seasoning and some color to your sound, these are things that you can focus on, right? You start a vibrato, you play a note, start your vibrato kind of quick, and then start to slow it down as the note decays, right? You know, I don't know why that song came to mind. That was like Every Time We Say Goodbye. That was a tune that Buster Cooper always used to play down in his gigs for some reason. That song just came to mind. But you get the idea. When you're playing with dynamics, there's a bunch of different things and the more you do it, it's just a part of your thing. You're not like consciously thinking like, oh, I better do some dynamics now. No. It's something that's a part of your thing. It's inherent. You know, when you play, there's a certain expectation in your head. You have that sound in your head. You know, I mean, like I said, like I'm going through one of those phases. I was talking to one of my other sax buddies. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or what it is, but I usually don't. I'm a gear dude. I'm a sax nerd. Right, I study a lot of sax stuff, all about it. I'm constantly looking, what's the new thing, the new reed, the new ligature, this, that, and the other. But I don't really fumble around too much. Like I try a lot of stuff, but I just do it and I generally come back. I was playing the same mouthpiece for about 10 years. I was playing it's like an Odalink copy, old. Like a Florida Odalink copy. It's made by Theo Wani. It's this Gaia model. It's supposed to be like a Florida Odalink, but the window is larger. The chambers are slightly larger than a conventional Odalink, and the inner side walls are scooped out. I know some people are like, what? You did a what now? These are just some technical terms. You got to learn about this stuff if you want to, like, I don't know, you don't have to, but it helps to learn some of the technical aspects of the gear that you're using. Not too much, to some degree, because some guys get too far into it and then they're not playing anymore. They're just about the gear. But yeah, it does help to have some technical knowledge of the stuff that you're using, and I'll get into that in the final section of our 5-point philosophy here. But yeah, I was playing the same mouthpiece for a long time, sculpted inner sidewalls, Theowane Gaia model, like an 8, it's like a 110. Great mouthpiece. Played it for 10 years. Played on lots and lots of recordings, concerts, festivals, shows. I mean, it was just my main piece for a long time. And I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or what, just I've allowed my mind to wander a little bit. I was out there looking online, and yeah, I was just reading reviews and stuff like that, and just got curious. So I ordered up a few things. I got a couple different mouthpieces, but this is the one I'm playing on right now. It's not my long time mouthpiece of the Odalink copy, the Gaia. This is a Drake. Aaron Drake makes some phenomenal mouthpieces, and I thought this one was really cool. I played on it, and instantly I was like, there's something there. So when I got my Gaia, I was coming off a completely different philosophy. I was playing on high baffle mouthpieces for a long time because that's just what I was doing at the time. I was doing a lot of commercial stuff, and it was just, it was suitable. You know, if I had to come out, hit them with the Careless Whisper or a little Baker Street or something like that, you know, I was doing that high baffle screaming stuff. So when I first got my last mouthpiece, the Gaia, I didn't really like it at first. I thought it was stuffy, and it didn't work out. And then I tried a few different reeds on it, started to develop the chamber of air necessary to create the sound I wanted, and lo and behold, things started to work out. Yeah, that's another thing when you're, and I'll get into this really quickly on our last bullet point here. But yeah, I started playing on that thing, and I had to make a lot of adjustments. But I finally got it working. I was really, really happy. I still am. I love that mouthpiece. It's a great setup, and I'm sure I'll play it a lot more in the future. I'm just on this right now with this ridiculous copper hand hammer neck. I'm just totally stoked about it. If nothing else, like me getting in some new gear, it's kept me engaged. You know, it's easy to just kind of let things go by the wayside musically. I'm talking about in terms of your maintenance. There's a lot of stuff that I have to do with the instrument. It's not always fun. I must admit, you know, there's certain things about it. Going through your room is playing scales and things like that. I mean, it's just not always, it's sometimes it's tougher than others to make it fun. And if nothing else, me kind of flirting with some sax gear has given me a reason to be engaged every day. I'm always looking for the silver lining. It's to make the lemonade, right? So it sucks that I'm like going through a period of seemingly indecision. It's not really bad for me. I don't care. But that can be a problem if you're just constantly fumbling around with gear and you're going through that. That can kind of be a drag. You know what I mean? You should just really do your best to pick a setup, find something that's going to give you the best opportunity that is within working means of, you know, I'm talking about it's got to be affordable, it's got to be relatively comfortable, and the only way for you to know whether that's true or not is to play a whole bunch. You don't do that by going online and buying some more stuff. You got to play on whatever you have right now for a while, and then make a slide, and maybe change the reed, then maybe change the ligature, maybe change the mouthpiece. You know, to be able to know what changes, what effects the changes that you're making will have. That only comes from playing a lot. You have to have that fundamental base. So I'll get to the last bullet point here. So we went through rhythm, we did melody, we did harmony, we did dynamics. The last bullet point is the most important one, I feel, because all the other ones go into it. It is your sound. Your sound is the last bullet point. It's your vehicle. It's your delivery system. It's your signature. You know, when you hear John Coltrane, when you hear Sonny Rollins, when you hear Chris Potter, Michael Brecker, that was one of the things that I wanted to address with the gear thing. Yeah, I got this copper neck. I got another mouthpiece, different ligature, different reeds, all that stuff, right? It's still me. It doesn't matter eventually. You know, I spend enough time on it. I'm going to get the sound that I'm going to get out of it. Your sound is crucially important. Your rhythmic concept is irrelevant if you don't sound, if you're not articulating cleanly, cleanly enough to make your rhythmic concept clear. If you're an orator and you're eating marshmallows, you're not going to be a very good orator. You're not going to, you know what I mean? You can't, your sound is your delivery system. The melodies that you're making are relevant if you don't have a sound clear enough to deliver them. Your harmonic sense is going to sound foreign, alien, if you don't have a good sound. Like, it's just not going to come off right? Your dynamics, all these things go into your sound. So, and it's crucially important. How do you do that? One of the best ways that I have found, and if you go on any sax forum and try to study sax, all the guys, they tell you, like, play long tones, sometimes facetiously. Hey, I want to work on this. I need to get some better altissimo. What should I do? And without a doubt, there's 50 sax players that jump on there. Long tones, Buster, right? Yeah, there's some other things you can do, but it's true. You got to play long tones. It's hard to play notes that are sustained, that are even, that are colorful, that are interesting. You know, if you're going to paint a picture and they only give you one color, that's difficult, right? It's difficult to make a statement with one note. You got to do that. So, yes, long tones are important, without a doubt. But how do you make the best use out of this practice? Play ballads. There's a bunch of long tones in ballads. And you get to work on your flexibility. There's all kinds of, harmonic and melodic structures in there. You get to kill a bunch of birds with one stone. You want to play long tones and develop your sound. Play ballads. Play slow songs. That's how you get it. I mean, man, just play ballads, play slow stuff, play around with it. Outline, like when you play ballads, you have to outline all the stuff yourself. There's nowhere to hide. There's no, you know what I mean? And the more you do it, the more comfortable it becomes. For me, a lot of that stuff, it was a labor of love. I love the Great American Songbook. You know what I mean? I'm talking about Starsville in Alabama, Moonlight in Vermont. These two, like, we'll have the thing, you know, I'll put the Google Home or whatever it is we have, Alexa, whatever name is. And, you know, I like the old stuff, man. You know, so all these old tunes will come on and my wife will be like, how do you know these? Like, in the first couple of seconds, Laura, da-da-da, bo-da-ba-da. You know what I mean? Or I mean, I just, you know, I know all these tunes. You know, I really love, like, I listen to a lot of the old music, like Charlie Parker. You know, definitely got me into all that. Just listen to all those old records, all those old Cole Porter songs. I get a kick out of you. I love you. It could happen to you. Yeah. So. You get a lot accomplished by listening to the old stuff, the ballads. I mean, you learn about like what was harmonically popular from one time to another. You just learn about the significance of different songs and like how and all these contrafacts, all these songs that are just interpretations of other songs, like Indiana and Donna Lee, or like Coltrane taking Chi Chi and Freight Train, right? Coltrane took Chi Chi, this bird tune. I think that was a Tommy Flanagan tune, but nonetheless, it was written for Coltrane. So yeah, I mean, the more you dig into all these old songs, you really get a lot out of it. I mean, not just the old songs, but the ballads. That's where I started off with this, playing the ballads. Yeah, man, like I said, there's too many of them to name. The polka dots and moonbeams. So yes, you had a jam session. Oh, let's do a ballad. Okay, what tempo are we gonna do? Body and soul. I'm like, oh man, come on, in a sentimental mood. That other one that I was doing for Buster, what a beautiful melody. Every time we say goodbye. Yeah, I mean, man, dude, there's so much stuff. The melodies, You Don't Know What Love Is, Chelsea Bridge. Oh, man, there's so many good ballads. Yeah, so dig into some ballads. You want to develop your sound? The best way to develop your sound is to start play a lot of ballads. Next thing you know, you'll be playing some really sweet stuff. Or at least you'll have a better concept of what you want your sound to be, because you'll like certain things and you'll maybe not really care for certain things, and then you'll go back and start to reevaluate, recalibrate your intent, like where are you putting your energies. You know, if you pick up the horn and you just want to jam, then you're going to sound like you just want to jam. You know, if you pick up the horn and you're focused, then you're going to get some work done, and you'll start to see the results. So yeah, kind of just to recap, man, we did I'm hoping that somebody looked at this and found that it was advanced. Like I said, I know this is not an interactive virtual session, but if you do have any questions, or if you'd like me to dig into any of these subjects any further, yeah, please comment below, reach out to Steve or myself, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions. But yeah, just to recap, we initially talked about rhythm and then melody, right? Our harmonic sense, you know, what's going on with the chords. Beyond that, how are they voiced? You know, is it 1-3-5? Is it 5-1-3? You know, is that 7? Is that 13? Is it sharp 11? You know, what's the voicing for the harmonic value shown? Or what's the intended harmonic voicing, right? What did the composer want? Or what is most hip for what's happening in the band right now? You know, sometimes it's not even all that technically relevant, like what the voice, like you just have to find that line. You have to find the voice in the chord, find that note that will best allow you to transfer to the next segment, the next session, or section, the next chord change in a way that sounds hip. That doesn't just give the appearance that you know what you're doing. Like you actually knew, yeah, I played this, I enclosed this note because I knew it was going to allow me to resolve it here. You know, so a lot of very logical work to be done there. Just some harmonic study. It'll definitely, it may seem odd at first because it's, you know, it's foreign to your ear. You may be used to hearing, you know, somebody plays, you know, somebody plays a 2-5-1 to B flat. You hear that, you may have something in your head, right? You might already have something in your head, or some fancy thing you heard, you know, some city where you go, you know, you might have something, and you're used to hearing it that way. But then the more you know, you do some harmonic study, you look at it a different way. Like, oh man, I can go like, right? Oh man, I could do something like that. So yeah, we talked about our doing some harmonic study or being conscious. This 5-point system that I'm talking about is just a way for you to maybe stay grounded and stay relevant in this, in an effort to remain pure in your intent to make music. I feel as if these 5 things are kept in balance when you're trying to play music, it'll be almost impossible to play something that is not relevant or, you know, in most ways, in most terms, tangible. You can like, damn, I can feel that, or, you know, I can hold that, you know, I can literally feel that idea. So we talked about harmony. We also talked about dynamics. Like whenever somebody's playing you know, whenever somebody's soloing, you know, the good mark of someone is doing something that's tasty or interesting is a good mix of loud and soft, a good mix of legato and staccato, you know, a good mix of complexity and simplicity. keeping all these things in balance, your dynamics, right? Not staying static, moving it around a little bit. It has to have like a certain wave to it, right? Your dynamics. And then in the end, your sound, right? Your equipment, that's going to help you produce the sound that you're looking to achieve. And your sound is your signature. It's very personal. So when you're looking to develop your sound, obviously you're going to listen to some of your heroes and try to get a sense of what a beautiful sax sound should be, and then do your best to get to that point. So all these things, these 5 points, if you're getting ready to go up, like, hey, any one of these things you can draw on to generate the first idea that's going to get you off and running. You know what I mean? Rhythm, melody, harmony, dynamics, and then overall, your sound. What do you sound like? Is it bright? Is it dark? Is it spread? Is it focused? Or do you use a lot of staccato? Or are you more loose? Is your time feel like right on it? Or is it more free, like a Sonny Rollins, or even more so like a Ornette? So all these things are really good to think about when you're going along and trying to work on your stuff. When you get in the room and you have a piece, and you're trying to interpret it, whether it's for your own pleasure in your own study, or you're trying to complete a piece of music or compose a piece of music for a class. If you keep these 5 principles in mind when you're doing it, I think you'll be on the right track. Like, even though when you're composing, you're not playing, but the sound, ultimately what the music is supposed to sound like is a part of your consciousness. It's a part of how you compose the piece, the intent for the interpreter, for how you want the musician to interpret the music. Like, all these things are a part of your consciousness and will be very obvious when you're playing. It'll be clear that you're deliberate in your efforts and that you're focused. You're not just winging it. You're not just jamming. You have something that you are consciously trying to execute. And yeah, when it all comes together, regardless if it is a genuine reflection of what you intended, it's beautiful nonetheless. The intent is all, that is what is to be admired most of the time. If you see, young Josh Redman, I remember seeing him for the first time when I was a 10th grader. I was a sophomore in high school. I saw this guy. I was blown away. I didn't know anything about technically. I knew he was playing a lot of stuff, but he was just blowing. He was really, really coming. Josh Redman, James Carter. These guys, they're just, wow. And then, some of the Coltrane stuff, not even like the late free stuff. Just the emotion and the energy displayed. They were very deliberate in whatever they were trying to communicate through the horn. A lot of people are still trying to figure it out. But the energy and the raw emotion was there, and it's undeniable. So I think that the some of the most genuine and some of the most notable and exciting examples of all the stars aligning musically for this rare few, the upper elite of the special ones, Coltrane, Parker, Brecker, Sonny Rollins, Sonny Stitt, Joe Henderson. Do a lot of study. Do a lot of listening. And do that in balance. Take in individual pieces, a little line, like, hey, what was that thing? Try to figure that out. What was that little thing in there? That's all part of the language. And then just sit down and listen to a record in its entirety. with no analytical focus. Just listen to it and try to get something from it in a broader sense. You know, there may be something that you can extract from the entire experience that you would not be able to if you're like analyzing and dissecting individual passages. So, yeah, once again, rhythm, melody, harmony, the dynamics, and your sound. It's your signature. That's what people are going to remember, you know? So definitely, guys, keep swinging. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to everybody that's tuning in today. It's Advanced Tenor Sax, and yeah, really appreciate you guys tuning in. Any questions? Definitely send us an email or reach out. You know, if you want to do some advanced study privately, I'm available for that. So definitely take advantage while we have this time. You know, be out there working on your stuff.
Yeah, man, Jeremy, that first of all, thank you for leaving us all with a smile and helping us all to slow down and just take a few breaths and enjoy that music. And man, that voice, not only can we listen to your saxophone, but we can listen to you talk all day long and sing for that matter. But I guess most of all, thank you for believing in the work we do during the year outside of the production of the music and the festival and events and that sort of thing, because we like to think that we're, you know, making a difference in the community, and particularly with young people, trying to teach them about this music and just get them inspired to want to play music and listen to music too. So you're a big part of that, and we appreciate that. We appreciate that very much. So we hope to have you back with us with these sessions in the future. So, you know, I'll be in
Absolutely.
touch. And
yeah,
and you know, on behalf of the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation, we thank those of you participating today and listening or watching in the future. And we also give a big shout out to our friends at the Al Downing Tampa Bay Jazz Association, who have a similar mission to preserve and celebrate this art form and to support the outreach. And they're a big supporter of us in this session today. So thank you, Al Downing Tampa Bay Jazz Association. And for those of you that want to learn more about Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation, please go to clearwaterjazz.com and read about the festival tradition and learn about the year-round education and outreach making a difference in people's lives. So, Jeremy, until we meet again, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, man.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, everybody. Stay safe out there and be well and keep playing. We'll see you soon.
See ya.